It has been more than 24 hours since El Salvador officially adopted Bitcoin as legal tender. In that time, the economy of El Salvador has not collapsed. It has not become a global refuge for terrorism and money laundering. And the price of Bitcoin also didn't explode to a new all-time high. But only time will tell.
This podcast is for information and entertainment purposes only. Nothing on this podcast should be construed as financial advice. All views expressed on this podcast are solely the opinions of the host and/or any guests that we might have from time to time. Nothing on this podcast should be construed as a specific inducement to make a particular investment or to follow a particular investing strategy.
Good evening, you sexy sat stackers. Today is Wednesday, September 8th, 2021, and that means that today is DCA Wednesday. A lot has happened in the less than 24 hours since our last special episode celebrating El Salvador's adoption of Bitcoin as legal tender, known around the world as Bitcoin Day. If you didn't join us, we, like millions of other Bitcoiners, bought $30 worth of Bitcoin yesterday to stack in solidarity with our new Bitcoin friends, the $30 being a reference to the $30 worth of Bitcoin that each citizen of El Salvador received from the government for downloading and installing their Chivo Bitcoin app, the official government app in El Salvador. Perhaps as a gift from the gods, or perhaps as FUD from malicious partners such as Western Union and the evil world bankers ganging up to FUD people into adopting Bitcoin. Moments before the Chivo app went online, Bitcoin dropped by as much as 20% from a high of around 52,000 yesterday to as low as 42,000 before recovering to around 46,000, where it has remained pretty much plus or minus ever since that time. El Salvador and the price of Bitcoin aren't the only things in the news today of significance to Bitcoiners. But before we get to that, let's go over a few of the basics. For starters, we find ourselves currently at a block height of 699,698, and Bitcoin is hovering at $46,110. The price of Bitcoin is down 1% over the last 24-hour period, but as I stated, that's a little misleading because of yesterday's 20% drop, which then recovered to only a 10% drop after a whole lot of people just got absolutely wrecked on their leveraged positions. But as I said, Bitcoin recovered almost immediately to be to the point where it was down a mere 10%, so recovered half of that loss, and it seemed to have stabilized there at least for the last 24 hours. Yesterday's worldwide $30 stack in support of El Salvador for Bitcoin Day highlighted what I've been saying all along on these dollar cost average episodes, and that is $30 is a lot of money for some people. A lot of people that I know stacked more than 30. I stacked more than 30. And again, we're keeping that segregated from our DCA Wednesday stash just to keep that less confusing. But for a lot of people, especially people in El Salvador, $30 is a lot of money. One source said that the average person in El Salvador lives on about $300 a year. So $30 is a monthly income for a family in El Salvador, for example. So while $20 doesn't seem like a whole lot, $20 is a lot if you're in a small village somewhere in a lesser developed country, particularly those without bank accounts or any form of savings, which is what Bitcoin is here to help the most, or have potentially the most to benefit from. Anyway, getting back to the DCA Wednesday thing, today will be our 7th stack. We started stacking $20 every Wednesday on July 28th, and so far we've stacked 6 times, and so far we've stacked a total of $120, including fees. We've stacked 263,944 Satoshis, and that's currently worth $121.70, with an average cost basis of $45,464. So we're not up as far as we were before the 20% flash crash yesterday, But we've put $120 in, and it's worth $121.70. So not only have we recouped our 2.5% fees that we've been spending each stack, we've made a tiny bit of money along the way. And again, dollar cost averaging being a long-term play, we shouldn't even really be paying attention to price right now. That's the whole point of dollar cost averaging in the first place. And that brings us back to what exactly is dollar cost averaging. Again, this podcast is not financial advice. This whole purpose of DCA Wednesdays and the podcast in general is just so that I can explore DCA and a few other things about Bitcoin, and you can observe my experiment and draw from it what you will. Again, do your own research, and don't treat this as an inducement to follow a particular strategy. You do you. But if you look in any economics textbook or on the internet, you'll see that most people define dollar cost averaging as an investment strategy where you invest your money in equal portions at regular intervals regardless of price. The idea being that time in the markets beats timing the markets. Sometimes you'll buy at a little higher price, sometimes you'll buy at a little lower price. You'll buy all the all-time highs, and you'll also buy all the dips. But over time, that should all average out to where hopefully you come out ahead. And I think if you look at the history of Bitcoin, while it's certainly known for volatility, creating new all-time highs and then crashing by as much as 80%, if you have invested money in Bitcoin and held on to that Bitcoin for at least 4 years, at no point in time would you have lost money. Some people call that the 210,000 block theory. Adam Meister, the Bitcoin Meister, whom we haven't seen in almost 4 weeks now, at least who hasn't done a show in almost 4 weeks now. I know, as Adam would say, don't be an algorithm slave. Follow him on all his various different accounts. Follow him on Twitter, what have you. He hasn't posted a This Week in Bitcoin or the One Bitcoin show in almost 4 weeks now. Although he did pop up on Twitter the other day saying that he had picked up a sponsor who was going to meet his threshold of paying him to do at least one show a week. So hopefully that'll start soon because, hey, we miss Adam Meister. If nothing else, he's an entertaining inspiration to all of us. All right, so back to what we were going to, back to what we're all here for, and that is to stack some sats. And once again, I'm going to continue using the Cash App just because we've been doing so all along, and because it's so darn easy, and its fees are relatively inexpensive. Disclaimer: Cash App is not a sponsor of the podcast. We currently do not have any sponsors of the podcast. We'd be more than happy for Cash App to pick us up as a sponsor. Hint, hint, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Just kidding. But we're using Cash App because regardless of what you might think of Twitter, when it comes to Bitcoin, I think Jack's a pretty good guy. I think he's on the right page. And Cash App is just so darn easy, especially if you're here in the United States. But speaking of Cash App, if you still do not have Cash App and want to join us in stacking and want to use Cash App, there's a referral code in the links, referral code link in the show notes down below. If that's still, if they're still honoring that by the time you get around to listening to this podcast, and you follow that, and you click on that link and you follow their terms and conditions, you'll get $5 worth of free Bitcoin, and we'll get $5 worth of free Bitcoin for using that referral. And even though we don't have any sponsors, that'll help us out. All right, so Cash App is open. I have no money in Cash App, but that's okay because it's really easy to add cash. I have a debit card linked, so I'm going to go add $20. Boom, there's $20 in my Cash App account. Then I'm going to slide over to the Bitcoin tab, click Buy Bitcoin. Again, as I've stated before, Cash App will let you automate this, but hey, I love watching the prices, and I'm here to talk about the prices, so I might as well do it manually. Plus, there just seems to be something more satisfying and rewarding to me personally by actually manually entering $20 and hitting enter, as opposed to just waking up with $20 worth of more Satoshis in your wallet. Again, we're going to go with the standard one-time order, but you can set it up for auto investing. And they say you can set up automated daily, weekly, or bi-weekly purchases. And their default amounts, again, are 10, 25, 50, 75 out of 100. You do you, but we're going to do 20. And why we're going to do 20, I think we've discussed till we're blue in the face. So I'm manual entering $20, clicking next. While I've been talking, Bitcoin has gone down a tiny bit to $46,030.33. Our $20 is going to get us $19.55 worth of Bitcoin because there's that 45 cents worth of fees. But in general, that $20 is going to get us another 42,472 Satoshis. Click and confirm, and boom, you have purchased 42,472 sats. Nice. And that is going to bring our stack up to 306,416 Satoshis, currently worth $141.04. All right. So you see all the time people struggling. They ask questions on Reddit or they post things on Twitter saying, "Hey, I can only afford to invest $15, or I can only afford to invest $100, or hey, is it too expensive, or hey, did I miss out?" And I think what we've learned so far is that in less than 2 months, stocking away only $20 a stack, we've managed to build up $141 of the Bitcoin. So, a little bit invested over a longer period of time adds up. As the saying goes, the best time to have purchased Bitcoin was 12 years ago. The second best time is today. And if you had gotten started with us and you were following along, doing what we're doing, you'd already have $141 of the Bitcoin. And while that might not seem like a lot, we are just getting started. Not to mention that if you're one of those people that says $20 a week is absolutely all I can afford, then an extra $141 looks like a lot more money to you than if you're one of those people that routinely invest $10,000 at a time. And like they say, do your own research, create your own plan, and you do you. This is not financial advice. But if you're sitting in a remote village in a third world country and you have an extra $140 saved away, socked away for your family's future, something that you feel confident is only going to grow in value over the long term, you've achieved exactly what Bitcoin is setting out to do. And as we said, we are just getting started. All right, something else that we need to discuss sooner rather than later, and again, this is something that each person's going to have to take into account, a decision you're going to have to make for yourself, is we have 306,000 Satoshis sitting on Cash App. If that's your life savings or a lot of money to you, then it might be getting to the point in time where you want to definitely consider moving that into a wallet that you control. Get that money off in exchange. $141 is not meeting my threshold for where I'm ready to move it into my hardware wallet yet, but it's getting closer, and you need to know what you're going to be doing to secure your money. So if you don't already have a hardware wallet, or at least a non-custodial wallet on your phone, now is the time for you to start doing some research onto where you're going to keep your money for the long term. And we'll get into that some more in a future episode. Definitely when it's time for me to transfer, we'll get into that. We're a couple weeks away still, unless Bitcoin just absolutely goes through the roof. A reminder that when you do transfer your Bitcoin from wallet to wallet, you're going to incur mining fees, at least on chain if you put it in a Lightning wallet, or if you're familiar with using Lightning, or if you're in El Salvador where they're using a feeless Lightning wallet specifically for citizens of El Salvador. It's already past time to move that money, but that's a topic for a different time. For today, we're going to concentrate on the whole concept of dollar cost average, and we have achieved that. And again, we're going to keep stacking every Wednesday until we are all either filthy stinking rich, Bitcoin completely goes to zero and the experiment has failed, or as I've said, you guys just get bored and stop listening. All right, and on to other news. This should not come as a surprise to anybody. In fact, if you've been on the Bitcoin subreddits for any length of time, you know this is coming. But Reason Magazine has an article out there entitled, "Biden's Total Financial Surveillance. What if every one of your non-cash financial transactions was automatically reported to the beefed-up, audit-hungry IRS?" This dovetails nicely with another article that says that central bank digital currencies are going to enable the government to go from moderately negative interest rates to substantially negative interest rates, that people so far are tolerating 0.5% or negative 1% interest rates in many European countries, but that they fear that the only way that they can get away with pushing negative interest rates even lower, as low as maybe 5%, is if you don't have any choice and they force you into using a CBDC. I don't know why this comes as a shock to some people. I don't know why this isn't more than obvious that there's a certain political party that's been consolidating power every time they get the chance. They take away a little bit more of your freedoms, whether it's coming to take your guns, whether it's policing your free speech, or whether it's saying that you shouldn't even be able to go out and buy a pack of chewing gum without the almighty federal government knowing and approving of your purchase. This is just what happens when you elect these monsters into power. There's a link provided in the show notes, of course, to this article if you want to read it more in depth. But the long and the short of it is they're going to push a central bank digital currency. The central bank digital currency is going to allow them to do things like seriously, aggressively negative interest rates, in addition to flat out being able to control what you spend your money on. In addition, so that you can't just escape, they're plotting with other world leaders on a global minimum income tax to where, hey, if you don't like the way the United States is cracking down on you, well, tough, because the rest of the developed world's going to screw you just as hard. Combine that with any conspiracy theory you want to, and it all points to communist China. It literally seems more and more every day that the only choice you're going to have to escape this panopticon, this totalitarian social credit system, this worse than Orwellian totalitarian control over every aspect of your life, is to opt out, to go with plan B. And the only way to do that is going to be to stack those sats while you still have a chance and get them into your own wallet while you still legally can. But hey, I didn't come here to be a Debbie Downer. It is DCA Wednesday. We're doing our part. We're stacking those sats. El Salvador was the first domino to fall in nation-state adoption. Hopefully there's going to be a lot more of that to come. Obviously, just like dollar cost averaging, El Salvador's strategy is a long-term play. We're not going to see them be successful or fail in just the first couple of days. But El Salvador is hope. And if you keep stacking and accumulating your sats, you have your own personal island of hope. Bitcoin is our last best hope. As they say, Bitcoin fixes all of this.
Hey, if you find this content useful or entertaining, or if you're just feeling extraordinarily generous, there are a number of ways you can help support me in this podcast. The most obvious one is if you don't already have Cash App, there is a referral code in the show notes. And if you click on that link and set up a new Cash App account and follow their terms and conditions, you'll get $5 just for trying them out, and we'll get $5 as well. I've written several books, but the one you might know that's most relevant to this podcast is Understanding Bitcoin for Noobs, and that's available on both Amazon.com and BarnesandNoble.com. Obviously, purchasing either of my books would help support the podcast as well. And you can also support the podcast directly through the Anchor.fm website, and they include a support link automatically in the show notes. And last but not least, we also include a Base32 Bitcoin address in the show notes if you feel like helping us out by contributing Bitcoin. All right, that's going to do it for this edition of the Bitcoin Bulletin Podcast, Dollar Cost Average Wednesday edition. Don't forget to join us next Wednesday and every Wednesday as we continue the journey. Once again, thanks for listening, and keep stacking those sats, you sexy sat stackers.